I think men definitely run and charge towards obstacles or work or things to do. Yeah. But when it does come to the emotional things or relational things, we can run away. Even though we're running towards something, we can go, oh, well, we're running towards these important things that we have to accomplish or do. But sometimes doing that is actually the emotion or action of running away from the thing we need to sit in.
Hey, welcome to the show. Today on Stand Up Dude, we are joined by Matt Hammitt. He is a singer, songwriter, author, and speaker whose heart for faith, family, and singing truth have made him a fixture in Christian music. Former frontman for Sanctus Real, Matt has penned hits, walked through hard seasons, and now crafts music and messages that are as real as they are beautiful. We're excited to hear what God's doing in his journey now, not just looking back. So, Matt, welcome to the show. Really good to have you.
Yeah, great to be here.
Thank you so much. Faith, family, and song. I mean, those sound like awesome words, but it really is what you do. Yeah, I've never heard three words that were more accurate about a man, and that's Matt Hammitt. So thank you. Yeah, 100%. That's what you do.
Thank you. I want to steal that bio you just read. I'm like, well, it might be the best bio anybody's ever.
Did Al write that?
It might have been.
It might have been. We love this guy, Al. He's such a great writer. He never sleeps.
I made to steal that from Al.
No Thanks, vacation. He never calls in sick.
Al.
He's the best.
Well, Matt, I want to, again, just welcome. I want to share a quick story just about the kind of guy that Matt is.
Yeah, man.
We know each other outside of the show and everything. When there was a difficult season in my life, Matt reached out and he's just like, hey man, let me take you to lunch. Took me to an amazing lunch at Perry's. It was the best pork chop I've ever had in my life. Dream about it every day. But he just sat there, heard my story, and then just related. He's like, man, I feel you. I know what you're going through. So not only is he like the guy you see on stage and the guy you hear speaking, but he is who he says he is. He's the same guy off stage. So just wanted to, toot your horn there a little bit.
Dude, that means a lot. Man. I was grateful to be able to sit together.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And as a man that loves this man, thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
This ministry is called Stand Up Dude, and that's what that was right there.
Yeah, I've had people do it for me, and so any chance I get, man, it's like you have good community that teaches you how to. I think the natural inclination when you see people walk through hard seasons is to like, oh, give them some space, or we'll just kind of, that's, I think that's like for all of us. Like I know for me, when I've been going through hard times, transitions, whatever it is, man, it's like some people are like, I remember actually even when my son was in the hospital back in the early days of maybe like 2010 when he was born, and my wife and I ended up in the hospital for a couple months actually. And there were a lot of people who were really close to me who said, well, I just didn't want to bother you. I wanted to give you space to process, and I remember even in that moment, remembering the people who like heard, about what was happening and they just like reached out. And that meant so much, just to have people in that moment, like not be worried about giving me space, but to like press in and say, hey, I'll just, just let me, what can I do? How can I help? And I think that was like a big time for me where I learned that lesson and just really wanted to extend that to other people because I know how important it is,
That's something on like Stand Up Dude as a whole, kind of our vision and mission is reaching men. And I think it's something that men especially, like Christians need Christians, Christian men, Christian women, but men especially need men who will reach out, extend that arm and just be like, hey man, I'm there for you. Yeah. And I'm guilty of it. I've done the same where I'm like, I don't want to talk, I'll leave them be, they'll figure it out. And oftentimes what they're really needing is just somebody to sit with them. Like you don't have to solve their problems. You just need to be with them. Yeah. Let them figure it out.
It is interesting because this whole conversation definitely does scratch kind of an epidemic amongst like men's culture, that we so often do isolate as opposed to come together in community. It's funny because when I left Sanctus Real, I started this men's conference where I'd take my family with me and we would go and we'd do a weekend at a church. And it's funny because I look back and I go, man, like all the women's conferences that I've ever been asked to speak at or be a part of, like these women, it's like those tickets go on sale or that registration opens up and just boom, it's like, it's full. They're excited. They're there. They're present. They're ready.
They do what they're supposed to do.
But trying to get guys out, trying to do a men's conference, man.
Holy moly.
It was some of the hardest work of my life. And it was fruitful, but it was like just getting them to make the decision to come or really show up
and not do it at the last second. And
totally.
It's brutal.
Yeah. And I know part of that is like a lot of guys are working hard all week and they got the weekend with their family. And it's like to take a weekend away from the family is a big deal, but it's just I think it's that hesitancy to engage in something that could, open you up and have to have real conversation.
And get real.
Like, do I really want to go do this right now? Whereas women are just like, where can I go? Where can I have a conversation with a bunch of women, So
I worked at a church years ago, and it was a hunting community, big hunting community.
Love it.
And like men, you could get them to show up to hunting at, 3 a.m. and all that, but you couldn't get them to show up on a Saturday at these church events. And it's this tedious process of just getting them used to the idea. And I think it is because we, as men, we want to be comfortable. We want to be in control of what we're doing and not risk being known and embarrassed. And
man, I think that's a really good word right there.
Yeah.
I think part of what happens also is, you mentioned that it's hard for guys to kind of show up because, they're busy and to take a Saturday off and go away from the family. But guess what? Mama does it, and they are most likely got more jobs going on Saturday than we do. I'll just go ahead and probably think that's the way that it goes. But I think what we do, maybe as men, is we wrap all kind of stories around, false stories that run around like little reels in our head that we listen to that winds up the tape, and it's some story about I don't have time, I can't show up, it's a little protection like we've stepped on that they don't want to be potentially cracked open. It's a lot easier to stay busy. So on the contrast, I think women don't have that story. They're like, oh great, I get to be with other ladies. It's going to be exciting. Matt's talking. There's going to be some good music. I guarantee he's going to say something that I'm going to feel, and let's go. And I'm going to invite 3 friends. Oh yeah, you already know about it. Okay. And then the guys are like,
you said something interesting there too. And I think the idea of, I think men definitely run and charge towards obstacles or work or things to do. Yeah. But when it does come to the emotional things or relational things, we can run away.
Yeah.
It is interesting. Or like you said, even run to the tasks as a way to, even though we're running towards something, we can go, we're running towards these important things that we have to accomplish or do. But sometimes doing that is actually the emotion or action of running away from the thing we need to sit in. Right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. I think we're born to kind of fix, at least that's what we and praise God. Men are made to do the hard things, but often we don't take the time for ourselves. We will fix our little girl's bike that breaks. I hope we will help the wife, fix this thing that is bugging her about the light, in the kitchen. But man, when it comes to sitting with and getting real with our own self, so just. This podcast is about calling men forward into being in that space. And so thank you very much for bringing that up. I can't believe where we're at. It's just a few minutes into this podcast. This is not what we planned, but we prayed that the Lord would lead us. And so thank you. Thank you. Yeah. It's encouraging to hear you recognize that space and to be able to speak into it with experience. So thank
conversations
you.
Conversations worth having, man.
Yeah. So Matt, I have a question for you then. You are a person who you seem to have become open to that vulnerability yourself. Was that something that you started out in, or how did you arrive at this place where you're like, I'm willing to be real with other guys?
Yeah, I think it was always something that came somewhat naturally to me, like through artistry, through song, or being on stage, being able to share pieces of my life that felt vulnerable. And it just, that never really, it didn't bother me. You know, I really felt that connection with a listener. You know, if I went through something, I put it in a song and then it went out into the world. The connection I had with listeners that they would express was always just really a gratifying, not reward, but you know what I mean? It was like outcome of that. And also being on stage, sharing stories, opening my heart, and just getting real with people and seeing how a crowd would even respond in a room who came for a concert, and then they find themselves being pulled into what feels like a moment of community and then hopefully healing. And so I think I always was kind of naturally bent towards that. However, it took a while for me to actually express that same vulnerability in private groups with friends and communities of men. Yeah. I think it was almost easy for me to feel like I was doing that work on a stage where it was easy. And it sounds weird because you're in front of people, and it doesn't sound like that's the easier way, but it is, right? Yeah. Because I don't have to do life with those people. Yeah. I show up. Yeah. We do our thing, pack up, move to the next city, and I don't have to sit and whatever happened there vulnerably together with someone in community, you know? And so it was almost like I could almost trick myself into thinking that I was vulnerable enough because I did it on a regular basis, night after night on stage, but it was lacking in my personal life with my friends in private spaces. And I think, you know, with my close brothers, like in Sanctus Real, you know, I would share things with them, of course, but I was definitely lacking community outside of that church community with other men. And I wasn't the one going outside of those walls of my little comfortable bus and stage at the time for the, 15 years that I toured with them. We were a band for 20 years, which is crazy.
Wow. And the band is Sanctus Real.
Sanctus Real. Yep. So
SANCTUS Real.
Yep. REAL.
REAL.
So, and y'all
check it out.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Really, you should check it out. Yeah. It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah. And they're still going, I was with them from 1996. We met in high school, signed in 99, to Sparrow Records, made 7 records, and then stepped away in 2016. But I would say it really was at that point, where I was kind of left to go, okay, I don't have my cushy little community on the bus that my friends I've known since I was in high school. And, I can't just be on stage every night because I stopped touring for a while and doing that thing. And I had to figure out well, man, how am I using my life and my story now to connect with other people in a way that's meaningful in community? And I had to really at that point step out and figure out how I was going to go beyond my comfort zone and engage other men in that, you know? I think COVID too really did it for us because we realized how lonely we were. And it was oh, well, how do we pull people in and how do we open our
COVID lives? Was kind of that, everybody initially was like, this is great. I got a 6-week vacation. And by week 7, you're going, okay, I got to get out of here. I can't be with these people, this family of mine or whatever it is.
Isn't it crazy? There were a lot of divorces and stuff during that time. It was all of a sudden
you just realize you're looking at your cohabitating. You weren't really living life together. And I think to your point though, that is the thing that if you don't have that already, then when the storm comes, you're going to get tackled. So, okay. So, there's a few directions I want to go, but, I know you talk about your son, Bowen. There's even an amazing documentary that you guys have done. And
what's the name of that?
Yeah. So Bowen's Heart.
Bowen's Heart.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're kind of in between distribution, channels. So we ended our deal with the last distributor there might be a season where it gets taken down for a little bit, but I think people right now can still, in the next couple of months, we'll still be able to go to pretty much any platform and watch it.
Well, nothing drives urgency hey, limited time. You guys have a chance. But if you guys, I would recommend going out and checking that out as soon as you can.
It's a big deal.
You alluded to it earlier though, with your son's health and in the hospital. Briefly, could you just kind of touch on that, explain that? And then my follow-up to that is really, was this sort of the beginning of more of the vulnerability of the honesty? Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. How old is he?
Yeah, so he's 15 now.
Okay. Because 2000, I couldn't help but think, I wonder how old he is, because around 2016 you withdrew from the band, and and I think that maybe was the time that you used to sit in that space. So I don't want to interrupt the flow, but I couldn't help but wonder if 2016 had anything to do with your son.
It did, for sure. Yeah. So in 2010, we found out that Bowen had a severe heart disease, and he really only had half of his heart. So to find out that your kid only has half of his heart, while still in utero, was like, okay, well, what do we do? And they told us it wouldn't grow, but that he could possibly live if he had 3 open heart surgeries after he was born. And so that season, even like from April to September of 2010, after we found out, just sitting, feeling kind of helpless, going to different specialists and doctors and trying to figure out what to do. And that was a crazy time, because the biggest piece of advice we got from a lot of the specialists was just like, end your pregnancy, and that, as I was a father, as someone who, has a biblical worldview and a relationship with the Lord, was like disheartening to me, because I'm like, no, I don't want to end this child's life. I want to fight for this child's life. Yeah. And that's what I'm called to do as his father. And so we just started pulling people around us and to pray. And I started a blog called Bowen's Heart, and just ended up, like Caleb was talking about, and all his radio stations across the country. We had like 1 million people come to the blog that year.
Golly.
And it was wild, just the people who came around us. But after he was born, it was tough, man. It was hard. And I don't know if we could have, God would have gotten us through, but I know that also the prayers of all those people carried us through. It was like over 2 months in the hospital. And so first surgery, we almost lost him. He had one evening where after one of the surgeries, he actually coded, his heart stopped beating, and he was basically dead for 45 minutes almost, except for the fact that there was a nurse like just pumping his heart to try to keep him alive.
Wow.
And so the Lord really gave in that moment. That mystery of why he gives and why he takes, like, I don't know. It's hard sometimes when you talk about miracles, like for me, because I'm like, for us, that was a miracle. Yeah. But I also know there's a lot of people who like don't get the miracle, but so we don't take it for granted at all that God in that moment gave us that miracle of keeping our son, and been through 2 other surgeries even after that. And so it's been a real journey with Bowen, not just having the feelings of how do I navigate sickness? How do we navigate moments of crisis together as a family? But then also, like, how does that impact my other kids, and how it's impacted my marriage, and how the grief of having a sick child and going through those moments really puts a marriage through a fire. I think there's some studies that say like 70, some are above 70% of couples with kids with chronic illness divorce.
Yeah.
And I think part of that, at least for Sarah and I, where I could see like, oh, this is how people can get pulled apart, is you just grieve and process so differently throughout. And because you grieve and process in different ways, it can be hard to understand the way the other person grieves.
Oh man.
And so you're grieving differently than separately. Then you've got all this tension that like you become not intentionally angry, but you can almost become angry that like, I need a partner and they're not meeting me here in my grief in the way that I need to be met, and vice versa. And so now there's that whole chasm between you of how you deal with it. And then the pressure, that pressure cooker too can just cause that explosion at times, of, well, I need this from you and I need this from you. And for Sarah and I, it was actually, she was at the bedside 24 hours a day, solely focused on his health, which was amazing. Cause I'm like, okay, mama bear. Yeah. But there were times when I needed her as her husband together for us to like get together, even for an hour. Let's go have lunch. Let's go walk. Let's like just get our heads together to take this on as a team. She felt like, that was selfish of me to ask her to like step away.
Yeah.
Even for a moment, for fighting for our son, that she thought, well, you should be here too, 24 hours a day, you know, like right here, fighting as hard, or is the man harder than me? But I'm like, that wasn't the way I knew how to fight. Yeah. And for me, I was like, I also felt like I didn't know where to find my space in that, because she was so front and center and all that, that I'm like, I don't know what other question to ask. I don't know what other thing to do here. And then I would go in the afternoon, sometimes at the hospital, and process, like I'd write the blog. That was my way of fighting. Keep our family and friends updated, invite people to pray, build a community of people who gathered around us in prayer. And she thought, well, how can you go do this, and not, and so it's like, and so in those moments, it was just like,
she was resentful for you not showing up, and you were resentful to her for not showing up.
Exactly.
And there's that alienation, that separation, which is just nasty, really.
It's so much pain in your heart.
I can feel that. I have felt that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Similar, and in other similar situations, people feel that same tension.
Yeah.
And so navigating that on top of a sick kid, was just a gnarly season of life, man.
Yeah, dude.
But out of it, we've got a 15-year-old kid now who the doctors, not all the doctors, but several doctors told us would break our family. And God used that brokenness to make us more whole.
Golly,
so that's what God does, man. So that's him.
Wow.
I was just reading in James today when it says, like, consider it pure joy when you encounter trials, not because the trial is so great, but knowing that the testing of your faith produces perseverance, and you let it have its perfect work.
Yeah, man.
And perseverance produces goes on to
character.
Say,
character. Yeah. So I think culturally, could be Western culture or whatever, we tend to shy away from difficulty. Like I do not want to volunteer for anything that's difficult, really, if I'm honest. But to see how God uses those things, and he often has to bring those things about, because it's like, I could tell you this. I could tell you that this is a part of your heart that I'm working in. Yeah. But it's not how we work. It's not how we change usually. Yeah. And it requires those things. But just in even thinking of the ministry that you guys have had because of that trial and others, I wanted to dig into, you guys have 4 kids. Yeah. And I know that impacts your whole family as you're dealing with that. But knowing your family, like I want to say you have awesome kids. They're awesome. The way that they have been shaped. I'm sure there are things in all of that, but God's faithfulness in you as parents, and just loving them and not making them feel like there's no one else in their lives at the moment with attention except what the crisis is, Yeah. And I'm sure there are moments where that's happened.
Yeah. Man, first of all, thanks for saying that about the kids. I agree. We're always praying. We know they'll all at some point go through tough seasons, whatever that looks like, and we'll navigate that as it comes. But right now, it is sweet to see that each one of our kids does have a desire to do what's right, and they have a desire to navigate what God is saying to them and to our family. And I think because we're on the vulnerability piece, it was interesting. I had somebody ask my 20, well, she'll be 20 in February, so 19-year-old daughter, Emmy, who you know very well. I had someone ask her in front of me, like, they said, Emmy, you're like an amazing kid, like a young adult, It's like, he said, I'm raising a daughter. Will you tell me what your parents did?
What'd she say?
And I was like, I was just in the moment, like, oh my gosh, I don't know what she's going to say. Like, I want to know what she's going to say. Yeah. And what she said? She said, I felt like my parents both were always willing to talk about anything and everything that was difficult throughout. And I knew that anything I did or thought or said or whatever would be met with like a conversation, to be able to have a safe space to talk all the time. And so I thought, man, that was so interesting, because we could go back to the vulnerability piece. She was basically saying that because she'd never had to be scared or afraid, or like no question was stupid, no experience was too weighty, that she could bring anything to us and know that we would have open arms and open ears and open hearts to have the conversation. And also, I would say one thing my wife has modeled for me over the years is not just being available for the hard conversations, but really pressing in on the hard conversations. The best example of this for me was I came home when my daughter, when Emmy was 8 years old from being on the road. And she comes out, and I won't do it on the podcast but she came out running out to my car, making a motion with her hands and said, "Daddy, Mommy told me." And it was very obvious that my wife had the sex talk with our 8-year-old daughter while I was gone.
No way. Mommy told me.
Mommy told me. Yeah. I was like, at first I was like, I kind of like felt off, like taken off guard. Yeah. I kind of felt upset she had it without me. Right. I kind of felt like she's 8 years old. Was that too soon? Yeah. Because my wife is like she's very, very open, about things. And sometimes like I'm a little more reserved about certain things, so that can make me uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But in that moment, when I heard why my wife had this conversation, it was like she had noticed that they were starting to hear stuff around the neighborhood that was a perverted version of what we needed to be teaching them. And she, in that moment, didn't waste the opportunity to engage in that moment to dispel the lies with the truth, even though it was like pretty, like for me, like I'm like, wait, is that too much truth for that age? I don't know. She like answered all their questions or all her questions. And I was like, you know what, man, if we don't answer them or we don't engage, I was like, you're right. If we don't do it, somebody else is teaching our kids. And so she taught me a lot about that, the willingness to break those uncomfortable barriers, to say what needs to be said, even if it just seems like too much.
Yeah. If I could say something about the way I've raised my kids that are different than the way that my parents raised my brother and I, that were 13 months apart. So we're pretty close there. I think that my parents, that generation, I guess that'd be Boomer or something before that. Anyway, no, definitely before that. I'll just go with my dad. The men were not, encouraged to express vulnerability or weakness or mistakes. Yeah. Okay. And so I didn't hear pretty much any of that. Now I heard a lot of beautiful things from my dad. I had a great dad, but I didn't hear that. And so I'm a former drug addict and alcoholic, got 36 years of sobriety now. Awesome, and so when my kids were born, at around 8, 7, 6, 10, I started having some serious conversations. And what I chose to do that was different than the way that I was brought up is I began to share with them my struggles. They wanted to know, well, what kind of drugs? And well, what do those do? I'm talking that kind of stuff. Yeah. Like I would have never had that conversation with my dad. Yep. And so why I even mention it is I love how your wife modeled vulnerability, and now your kids don't feel vulnerable, which is pretty crazy. Yeah. And so I think maybe I was tracking with your story thinking, I think that might be something similar that my kids might say, because we've always been open. So I say that to encourage others that are listening, that if you're a dad or a young parent or mom, praise God, if you're a mom, thank you for listening, would be to model vulnerability in your own life, and it will open the door for them to be the same. So, and they get to see you as a real person and not a perfect person, which opens the door to have conversations like your children were getting older now said, that's what made the difference in my life, because my parents spoke up. They were honest. They shared their mistakes. They shared their weaknesses. And anyway, I just thank you on behalf of all the kids out there, young people, for modeling that. And if that's, it's never too late for you. If you can start now if you're a parent, and if you're not a parent, I have a feeling you guys probably would have modeled that anyway, because that's the kind of generation you are, and I love that about you. So keep that door open.
You said something really interesting just now that I hadn't thought about in the way that you said it. Mm-hmm. You said they don't feel vulnerable because they've been taught to be vulnerable. Mm. And that is a really interesting thought, because sometimes, we feel vulnerable, which puts us in the defense. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whereas like, if you're like already just taught to be vulnerable and you are vulnerable, it's a way of being, then like, in a way you're protected. It's hard to like describe, but what you said like gave me this image of like they're not vulnerable. Almost I could see like to the attacks of certain things too, because it's a way of life. They're almost shielded by the being of vulnerability so that they're not susceptible in a way to like, I'm trying to like explain the picture, but it's really hard. But I just loved what you said about that. It's like they're protected in a way through the vulnerability that they have to like, I guess, like the negative feeling of vulnerability.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, man. Like the way I tried to reframe that. The way you said it,
man, you're making me close my eyes and get this image. You know what I just kind of saw like a shield.
It's almost a shield.
Yeah, it's like a shield that comes up, and that and it protects them, and they stay afraid and extremely vulnerable inside of that shield. They're like, no.
Here's it is. It's semantics a little bit, but it's almost like being vulnerable doesn't make you vulnerable.
Yeah.
That's maybe the way to say it.
You.
Yeah, like that's I don't know. There's a cool kind of thing you said that gave me that image. That I thought was
song in there, Matt.
Yeah, there's strength and vulnerability. Yeah.
Do it.
Well, so I think that's a good spot for like just digging in to our audience, as men 18 to 48-ish or so. And
thank you if you're older or younger.
Yeah.
We have a lot of friends that are
there's no
over
limitations.
48.
Truly.
No, I know. I appreciate you saying that, but
thanks to all the 3-year-olds watching, all the 3-year-olds,
70-year-old and 80-year-old men, that are out there listening. Yeah. Thank you.
I wanted to get into one of your songs as a solo artist, "Lead Me." I think that has had such an impact on men in particular, because it's like an anthem of vulnerability, yet it's also challenging to men. I'm sure you get asked all the time, talk about what went into writing that song and all that, but more so like, how have you seen that impact men's lives?
Yeah, man, that was came out of a very difficult season of marriage. Sarah was on the road with me with Sanctus Real for like 4 or 5 years almost. At the beginning, she literally went from our honeymoon into a 15-passenger van, touring with a bunch of guys. I think it was like going out to tour with like the Newsboys and a bunch of Audio Adrenaline and all these guys. And then after so many years, she became pregnant and obviously couldn't be on the road anymore. And so she had to leave road life. So now you've got like her at home doing the family dream, and I'm out there pursuing the career dream. And so now you've got this like tension between career dream, family dream that every guy feels. And where's that balance? We're trying to figure that out as a young dad, grinding at this dream and this thing and this career that's growing. And probably about 7 years into our marriage, after being out there for those few years without her, and we were home some, but I mean, we'd go out for like a month and a half at a time, and then get a little break. And I remember just walking through the door, and I always, whenever I share this story, when I'm speaking, I always say that, she said the words that every man longs to hear. She said, "We need to talk." Nobody wants to hear that.
We do not long to hear those words.
We need to talk. It's like,
anything but that. Man. Please, God,
I gotta go mow the lawn again.
A, I'm in trouble. B, I'm not gonna know what to say. And oh, geez, Louise.
Yeah. And we were in a pretty interesting cycle of conflict. I say interesting. Pretty bad cycle of conflict.
Horrible.
At the time. And so I was probably honestly in a bit of a defensive posture because of some of my own wounds, but the Lord just gave me grace, man, to hear what she had to say that day. and to kind of shut my mouth and open my ears and my heart.
Yes, sir.
And she just said, I need you to, it's like, she said, it's like you're here, but you're not here.
Yeah.
And you're out there providing, thank you, but I need you and your heart, and I need you to lead us spiritually and emotionally and in presence. And she said, I need you to lead me. Those are some of the words that came out of her mouth that day. And man, it just pierced my heart, because I saw the thing that really kind of got me in that moment. And it's the opening line of the song. So this is like, kind of just show people that like, it wasn't just like a lyric I wrote in a room with some writers. Like, it was, this literally happened. I was looking at our wedding picture sitting next to me in our dining room, and she was just like glowing in that picture, just anticipation and excitement and hope about like what the future would be. And then here I am 7 years later, and that same woman is across from me, like in tears, you know, red, swollen face, like completely broken in spirit.
Wow.
And I'm like, man, that contrast just broke me. And so, you know, the line of that song, in picture frames, I see my beautiful wife, but on the inside, I can hear her saying, you know, it's like, lead me. And so, that day I wrote the first draft of that song, man. And I think what the Lord was really speaking to me as kind of maybe as an umbrella thought or statement that I could wrap it up in this, that whole conversation made me realize that my good intentions as a father or husband were absolutely worthless until they became actions, you know, based on the reality of who God was calling me to be and who she needed me to be. And I had to take a real hard look at, like, I think I had a lot of highlight reels in my head that made me think that was the reality to her of who I was to them. It was like all my intentions of like, okay, I want to spend more time with them. I want to pray more with them. I want to spend more time with the kids. I want to be more present. All these thoughts and imaginations of what I wanted to do almost became my reality. And I had to realize, like, oh, that person that I want to be might not be the person I actually am.
Might be imaginary.
Looking in the mirror that way, it's really hard. Like basically like taking the imaginary life of good intentions that we play in our head, and being willing to strip that back and go, oh wait, how do the people I love actually see me? Now, how do I see me? How do they really feel? What's it really like to be across from me? And I had to embrace that reality that day. And it was hard, because that means you have to meet it and you have to change.
Man.
You know? And so,
congratulations.
If you don't,
no, really, no. Full way to go. You did the really hard work.
It is
very brave.
And I'm still obviously have areas of my life I'm still trying to do that with, right? Still in process. But in that moment, I felt like I was able to start taking those steps. And is what I call my lead me journey. You know, my lead me journey is moving from being a man of good intentions to a man of action. And that's the journey that I try to continue to be on. And when, you know, the irony of that song is I wrote this song about being a more present husband and father. Then the president of our record label heard the demo and was like, why isn't this song not out in the world? And then it became a big hit. And it became such a big song that it actually took me away from home even more. That was the irony of it. God was like, I got a little more to teach you. Like in your own stupidity. And
asking for patience. And he goes, I'll show you patience.
And
make you get patient.
It also was the song, so full circle, that I had thousands of people out on the road singing back to me every night. And those words actually were the very words that called me back home.
That you needed to hear. Oh my gosh.
Pretty
what
crazy.
A visual.
So, and then 2016 just knew, man, the Lord was using the message of that song and everything that it meant to me to call me off the road to be with my family more. So, and I stepped away, and Sanctus Real actually kept going. And today they're still out there with a new singer, and they're doing great. They're still out playing and making music, and I'm out still. Lead Me is my life song, and it's my life prayer, and it's become the kind of springboard that God has used to put me into a whole new season of ministry. You know, that I can see now that was his plan and his design, and he opened those doors. And the more people asked me to come share that story, the more I kind of built on that ministry of to other dads and other fathers and become a big piece of what I do now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I appreciate it. I know it's something for guys who watch the show and stuff. It needs to be the very thing we all say, like, Lord, I need you. And I love that about the song is you get to a gospel-centered focus on it too, where you're like, God, I can't do this. I need you. I need you to lead me just as much as your wife needs you to lead
Absolutely.
her. And I think that's something like as men, we think like you hinted on, you're not hinted, you said it very clearly. We judge ourselves by our intentions. We think, well, that can't be. And I just recently had this conversation with somebody. We're looking at ourselves and we will excuse the wrongs we've done because we'll just go, well, that wasn't my intention.
Yep.
Well, then you have to take ownership of it. It's like, it's possible to hurt somebody without intending to do it.
Yep.
And when you do it, are you going to own it? Or are you going to go, well, it's impossible. Like there's no way I could have done that because that's not me. I love that you confronted yourself. And I think that's something for the men who watch this and listen to this show. We need to really, like you said, sit across from yourself and go, am I really who I think I am? Am I the person I want to be? And how is that transforming or becoming reality or not in my life?
It's a hard truth to really accept that wanting to do good is not the same as doing good.
Yeah.
Or not wanting to do wrong doesn't mean you haven't done wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to grasp the reality of like, who am I really?
Yeah.
I said this on the last podcast. Love this short quote from Henry Ford, the maker of Ford cars. He said, "What I'm doing is better than what you're talking about."
Wow, that'll sink in.
Yeah. And I want to be like that.
Yeah.
Just to be invited to what God's doing it allows you to be able to do what other people are just talking about. Hey, Matt, you know, your song Lead Me. I know there's, I love so many layers of that, by the way. There's going to be men out there that have never been vulnerable enough to not just say, hey, I need you, God. You help me a little bit here. Gosh, tell me what to say. Tell me what to do. Tell me where to go. But to have that time where they say, lead me, and make them their boss, in essence, of their life, where perhaps, as you have said, that the idea that they had in their life of what it meant to be led by God, and some image that they've created that may not be the image that God has.
Oh yeah.
Would you lead them into being able to say that and being in that vulnerable, very vulnerable position to say, lead me? No matter where it is, I'll follow. I will go. And so, would you take that opportunity for with some men here that are willing to be really brave?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think as men, so often we get caught up in our own wisdom or what we think is our own wisdom. But I think we do need to challenge ourselves. Is the wisdom of the world kind of infected us, or our own idea of, who we should be versus who God really wants us to be and is calling us to be. And I think it is a moment to have a heart check and to have a prayer and say, Lord, am I seeking your wisdom, or am I seeking my own wisdom, or the wisdom of the world? And the only wisdom that's good, in depth, that's infallible, that is surefire, that is eternal, is God's wisdom. And so I would encourage you just to say a prayer like, Lord, lead me to where you want me, not where I think I need to go, but where you want me to go. And I also would say, to any guys out there who have not really made Christ the Lord of your life, or the center of everything that you do. Maybe he's this peripheral figure that you're like, oh yeah, Jesus is cool, or I love Jesus, or maybe like you go to church or you go through the motions, that he's this peripheral character on the outside of everything you do that kind of garnishes it to make you feel good. I would really encourage you, like, are you willing to open up the bubble, open up the armor, and let him in to the vulnerable spaces where you're going to have to actually make real change.
Oh, buddy.
So my prayer for you is that if you haven't actually invited Christ from the peripheral to the inside stuff, that you would do that today.
Awesome. Yeah. If they've never done that, will you give them some words to borrow here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Bible says, we've all sinned, fallen short of the glory of God. But if we confess with our mouth and believe in our heart that Jesus is Lord, that you'll be saved. And so, man, I would just encourage you, believe, confess, say a prayer, Jesus be Lord of my life. And man, he'll meet you right there.
Awesome. Amen. Amen. Hey, if you just prayed that prayer for the first time, your life is forever eternally changed, not just by there's no magic words. It's the position of your heart. It's the position of humility, of needing God and saying, I need you. And he's already done the work. It's acknowledging his payment that he gave for you that you could never pay. And he rose again to give you new life so you can have a new life. And your life has begun today. Praise the Lord. It's real. This is not make-believe stuff. The Holy Spirit is in your life. Say, Jesus, thank you for giving me your Holy Spirit. And I ask that you build that Holy Spirit incredibly strong in my life, that I'll be led by you and guided by you. That I speak of you and I speak for you, with you, and I know you deeply. Amen. If you have seen this podcast, just please know that we also have a website, standupdude.com. And on there, you will find some excellent growth materials, growth paths. It's at standupdude.com/stand. And there's 5 or 6 just tools in there that are field tested, and they work, and they're free, and they're actually pretty great. So go there and go to standupdude.com/stand and get your growth path on. And please let us know if you just prayed with us. Please let us know. You can find us on the socials. We monitor those really pretty well. And then you could just send us an old-fashioned email, dudes@standupdude.com, and we will get back in touch with you. So thank you for being here with us, and thank you for being here, Matt. This is one of my favorite podcasts. I just love the spirit that moved here and talked about real things. And so I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, would it be all right if I let the guys know about something?
Yes.
I was just about to say, how can they find you and tell me about your new book?
Yeah, I love after a conversation like this, if they want to like dig in deeper to the story. And the book Lead Me came out a few years ago, but it's really unpacking really the nitty gritty. I mean, honestly, like my wife, Sarah, and I really held nothing back. My wife actually said to me, if you're going to write this book, then you got to put it all in there. And I was like, what do you mean by all? She's like, all the nitty gritty.
Oh, gee.
And I'm like, and of course I didn't have to, but I knew that was God's prompting to be vulnerable.
Wife, by the way.
Yeah. And so her voice is in there a little bit too. And we have some questions throughout 3 sections of the book too, for having those introspective moments about what that means for us to really, be people of action and change in our relationships and our families as men. So Lead Me is available online, but also I've been putting music out with Goatee Records, Toby Mac's label. So I just started putting new music out, man. It always helps when people get behind it, you know, and stream it and listen and share it with their friends.
Yeah. So very, very
helps
cool.
guys like us.
Very cool. And you're working on a new one, or you have a new one?
So right now I'm just putting out singles with Goatee, and I just put out a new song called Days God Gave last Friday. Awesome. And it's all about holding on to the moments, man, because they go so fast with the people we love.
And a book? You're working on a new book? For some reason, I have that in my mind.
I'm always working on a new book.
Okay.
And I don't know it's coming out yet. Because it's got to be right. Not yet. I don't have it yet.
Title. Okay.
It's called working title.
Is that what it's called?
I probably have three books.
3 working titles.
Yeah. I probably have 3 book ideas just accumulating, not knowing what should be crossing over into each other. It's a mess. It's a mess, man. And also too, like as an artist, I'm a solo artist now. So all my stuff's just under Matt Hammitt, my name. Hammitt. Yeah, 2 M's, 2 T's. I have tons of M's and T's in my name.
You do, M-A.
Yeah.
Oh, no way. M-A-T-T.
It's crazy.
M-M-I-T-T.
But yeah, so man, it really does help when people just go wherever they listen to music and actually stream the music, check out the songs, send them to friends and share it. Yeah, I'm also on Instagram if people want to follow there. So that support means the world to guys like us. So.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Good job.
Definitely. Well, Matt, thanks again for being here today, and we'd love to have you back again. And just speaking to the audience, if you guys found this episode helpful, go ahead, like, subscribe, share, leave a comment below. If you prayed that prayer, let us know below too. That would be awesome. Please. And we will see you next time on the Stand Up Dude podcast.